Welcome to Read Your Comics. Today I'm looking at Cable number 20, The Legion Quest Interlude. Thanks for joining me today. I'm continuing to look at the Age of Apocalypse for its 30th anniversary in a weekly format. And to do this, we've got to get through Legion Quest. This was a 4-part story across Uncanny X-Men and X-Men, but this Cable issue is kind of an interlude. In fact, the last Uncanny, I think it was an Uncanny issue that I did, it said to read this issue. So I was not a Cable reader at this time. I was not a big Liefeld fan. I did get X-Force at the beginning, jumped off it pretty quick. Just never cared much about the character at all. I did not like him. I just didn't care about him much. So I only really picked up his book when there was like a crossover, like a branded crossover. So it has the Legion Quest thing here. It's set in the other issue. You need to check this one out. So here I am. So it's Cable number 20, Legion Quest, An Hour of Last Things. But before I jump into it, I want to give a quick shout out to all the viewer support. All your likes, shares, and comments are much appreciated. And if you're new to the channel, or even if you're just a repeat visit and haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do that now. There's going to be a graphic pop up like around here somewhere. Go ahead and do that. That way you don't miss any future videos. Let's go ahead and jump in. This is an Ian Churchill book. He did the cover here, and he'll be doing the interiors as well. Jeff Loeb is the writer of this, which I kind of found interesting in that Fabian Nicieza was, the co-creator of Cable, and here we are just 20 issues into his solo book, and Jeff Loeb's writing it. So even though Nicieza's still doing other X books at the time. Anyway, it's Jeff Loeb doing the writing on this one, and pretty much this issue is kind of a send-off. At this point, we know that the plot of the story is that Xavier's son Legion has gone back in time with the intentions to kill Magneto, but he's going to accidentally kill Xavier, which is going to throw the whole timeline just out of whack. In the X-Men issue before, they had rigged up this machine with some Shi'ar technology for Cable to psychically go back in time to meet up with the X-Men team that is trapped in the past with Legion, who had amnesia, and he kind of triggers their memories to come back about who they are and what they're doing there, and yada, yada, yada. So this is kind of picking up right where he comes back in this machine. So he didn't physically travel back in time. It was more of like a psychic image, I guess, but I mean, he touched Bishop, so I don't know, but he was pretty much in this machine the whole time, like his body was basically here, and it's him waking up, and Jean Grey was attached to this machine too, so it took the two of them together to knock this out. Ian Churchill kind of making a name for himself around this time, I would say. We're a little bit past Image Comics. Had been going for a couple of years, so we're kind of past the straight up Jim Lee Liefeld clones, but we're still kind of like in an extreme style that is, permeating these books. So you got Joe Mad over on Uncanny X-Men, who's kind of bringing in the manga influence. Roger Cruz is just kind of aping him along with that. But in this book, we're still getting a little bit of that extreme Image style while not being a direct clone. I think there's just some psychic feedback going on here. The Hour of Last Things, that's basically what this book is going to be about. There's a lot of like talky in this book that's kind of wrapping up some emotional aspects and character moments as these characters think that the world or the universe is coming to an end. And that's basically what's happening. Domino's happy to see him. He's happy to see her. They kind of established with some narration that they've kind of had a ongoing budding relationship, but it seems like it's been a will they won't they kind of relationship, even though I remember Liefeld having them like taking a bath together or something at one point. But anyway, this is playing it up like it's been a will they won't they situation between Cable and Domino. I guess she's been more in this book than she has been in X-Force, because I know Cable kind of left X-Force at this time. He wasn't like really involved in that title at the moment. This is a recap page, just letting you know what happened in that Uncanny X-Men issue that I have another video for. Pretty good layout here for that kind of a situation, I think. we're gonna get some muddy colors and things in this too that I don't love about this era where Marvel's trying to figure out the digital coloring, still trying to kind of do it in a traditional style, and things get lost. This page looks good though. I like this layout. This seems like it was probably a good money page for Ian Churchill to probably take to a con and sell. You got all the major characters from this issue, lined up and posed. You got Xavier with his wicked eyebrows going on here. Now, and a cool Gambit here too, with the perspective of him, pointing at the camera, so to speak. And I think this issue only suffers from not enough interactions with Xavier, really, since the whole premise of this is Xavier's dying and we're not going to see him anymore. That there should have been a little bit more of that. I mean, the stuff you get in here is pretty good, but I think that's where the issue kind of could have done better. I don't want to say it's a weakness, but it could have done better. Cable and Gambit, two very popular characters of the time, and I guess they were at odds. I don't remember how often they actually interacted, but here they're kind of getting in a shouting match with each other, mostly because Gambit's upset because the world's ending and he feels kind of helpless. And Cable's kind of telling him to back off of Xavier. Rogue, of course, steps in, and Domino's like, nope, it's not worth it. And she's like, I appreciate your concern, but what, sugar? So then you got like the cat fight happening too. Kind of cheesy right there, right? And Cyclops comes in to break it up with his classic Zark. Look at this power pose by Cyclops here. There's a weird element happening right here between Cable wearing almost the same type of clothes. It's like, is this right here his arm or part of Cable? I don't know. Fist gets kind of small. This feels like it kind of got away from Ian Churchill. It's like he was wanting to come up with a cool power pose for Cyclops, and it kind of got away from him a little bit. Proportion wise, I mean, he's got these massive legs, and then his hand that should be, foreshortened coming at the camera is a little tiny. Hey, he does feet pretty good, This is a good look at the 90s Cyclops costume with the leg straps and stuff that make you, again, just question, like, what purpose did these serve other than the pop of color to break up his leg, to break up the blue going down his leg. It's so absurd. There's not even pouches on these. They're just like belts wrapped around his legs. This chest piece, whatever you want to call it, is kind of big. I feel like on him that it's protruding out a little too far. I just feel like it got away. Here's a coloring issue on Lalandra. She looks like she's made out of crystal or something. She's supposed to be like a holographic image here, communicating with the X team, but the way they colored it is the problem. I'm not really blaming this on Ian Churchill. I'm saying the colorist did something weird and it makes it look like she's like a crystal character. But if you were just flipping through the book, that's probably what you would think. But who is this character and why are they made out of crystal or diamond? I mean, that's like the same coloring technique they used on Emma Frost in her diamond form a few years later almost. And then we start getting more character moments here. Beast is kind of in his thoughts. He's noticing, like, Scott's with Jean, and Gambit and Rogue are together, and Domino and Cable are together, and he's kind of wondering who he has with him. And Angel comes up, and they kind of have a pretty touching moment where he's talking about how, they've known each other since the original X-Men, and he had just started a relationship with Psylocke, and she's one of the ones that's trapped in the past, so he doesn't really have her either. And they just have a good friendly moment here. And I guess it is worth pointing out that except for Iceman, who's trapped in the past, the whole original team is here. You've got Jean, Cyclops, Beast, and Angel, and Xavier all in this area together. No Wolverine here, which is actually noted coming up. And then you get a touching moment with Gambit and Rogue, who they've had their own will they, won't they going on, mostly because of Rogue's mutation that doesn't allow her to touch. And Gambit's kind of being a hard ass here. He's, Like, what's the point now? The world's ending. There's nothing we can do. I really like this particular panel of Rogue right here. Just the way he's got her, like, looking up at the sky, all forlorn, um, because he's just being an ass about it. This is a good page right here altogether. This is another one that if I bet he sold this one and made a little chunk of 90s money off of this one. But then as she starts to walk away, he's like, "Rogue, wait!" He throws down a cigarette. It's a good moment. This is a good page. It's laid out well. You got a good shot of Gambit, Rogue coming to him, good emotion on her face there. Him taking the draw off the cigarette, the forlorn look on her face, and him throwing the cigarette down. All of that is pretty good. Then it's going to cut to a similar moment with Domino and Cable going through kind of a similar thing where they're trying to share emotions, but both of them are failing to do it at the same time. It's very 90s action movie dialogue for the romance side of things. It is super corny. It's almost like teenagers that can't speak to each other, not these like battle-tested adults. I mean, granted, this was aimed at teenagers at the time. At this time, comics were still coming out on newsstands. These were still aimed at 10 to 14-year-olds. I was a little older reading these, as most people probably were, but they were still kind of aimed at that group. So this all made sense to that age group. Now I read it, I'm like, man, this is some corny dialogue. Let's take a minute to look at these cards. If you'll remember, there's supposed to be a gold Wolverine card in here, and this one was actually opened already. I think the glue came undone. So we'll just pull the cards out real quick and take a look at what we got. That's a pretty cool Professor X card. And then you get these Skeleton Warriors. This must have been a toy line or something that was coming out at the time. I don't really know much about that, but John Romita Sr. doing this card. That's pretty cool. That's a good looking card. Yeah, let's get a better look. Yeah, that's a cool card. Anyway, no foil Wolverine exclusive card in this particular pack. I'll get it back in there. And this is like an ad card. We saw that in the last pack. Here's Jean and Scott having their touching moment about everything, and it's funny because she said she wanted to see her family, and then maybe even Logan. And she's like, I shouldn't have said that. And Scott, who's saying, no, you were being honest, and I appreciate that. Remember, they just got married not too long ago. What issue was that? Like 30? I think it was issue 30 of X-Men, and we're on 41. So it's been within the year that they got married, the big wedding issue. And they also traveled through time to raise Cable in the future, and they hadn't told him about that, and that's getting ready to come up as well. Then you have Xavier, and this is the most touching moment you have with Xavier, with two of his original students, which Jean isn't even like the original student. It was just the boys, and she showed up, and they'd been there for a while, and she showed up in issue 1, and they're all like, ooh, a girl, look at the girl. But still a pretty touching moment here. More or less saying their goodbyes, and he kind of wonders if everything they had done was for nothing, because he never really fully achieved his dream, and they kind of give him words to reassure him that, like, all of us, these friends that we're more than friends, we're family, all of us are here because of you, and you did that. So that was a touching moment. Then Cable shows up, and they decide they're going to tell him that they were Slim and Red, I think is what they called themselves when they were in the future. I've never actually read that series. It's called, I think, Cyclops and Phoenix, Ascani Sun. That was how they took their honeymoon, was to go raise, really it's just Cyclops as a kid, but to go raise him in the future or be mentors to him. And then how could Cable come back in time and not know that Red and Slim, who is Cyclops, not be these people. Anyway, he basically says, "Yeah, I knew the whole time, and I figured you had your reasons for not telling me." So, and then he says he appreciates what they did for him as a kid, and that they helped raise him and make him the man he is today, and yada yada. And it's a good moment here too. This is a good moment, and these are well laid out pages. I like what Ian Churchill has done on this book. Domino walks up, and then they have their full on moment again. Again, more silly 90s action movie or 80s action movie dialogue where first she insults him by calling him a misogynist and egotistical and a lout. Big words. And he's like, "Domino, shut up and kiss me," with the big splash page of the kiss. The thing I like best on this page is Cable's arm and the way that it's the way it's drawn and inked and colored too. I like it all. It doesn't look like a straight up like a Colossus arm. It's got some like edginess to it in the seams, almost like it has like a little bit of spike coming off, like it's just like it's rougher. And I don't really see that a lot drawn on Cable that way. It's usually, like I just said, like a Colossus arm. So I really do like that. I like how it was done right there. Like even his elbow and has a little bit of spike without being overly extreme with like big huge blades coming off of it or something. It just gives it a better texture, I think. Now we can talk proportion here, and like his leg, it seems like it's going up high, like his waist is up too high. You can pick at some things like that, but overall I think this is a pretty solid page, and I really love the texture of the arm here. And I mean, his hand is gigantic on her arm. It like almost takes up her whole forearm. One thing about Ian Churchill is I feel like his figure work is like a lot of times, particularly women, they're elongated, like even their faces and stuff. Jean Grey's drawn that way a lot in here too. Rogue, it's hard to tell that he does it to Rogue because she has that jacket on in most of it, but nice double page sideways splash here. The coloring loses these faces in the background, but Xavier's kind of given a moment. They're watching this crystalline effect that's sweeping across the universe, and it's making its way towards Earth, the center point, which, whatever. It's comics. Who cares really at the grand scheme of things? But if this like time thing is unraveling, why would it start at the outside and come in? Wouldn't it start in Earth and spread out the other way? But it doesn't matter. The ends to the means is to get to the Age of Apocalypse. So, as I was saying, though, there's everybody's faces here, both characters that have lived and died, or I mean, I guess they're ones that have died. I saw, unless that's Warpath, the brother that joined X Force. I don't know. He might be, because Logan's right there. And they're just kind of having their moment. A nice splash page here. Beast is in a weird pose in the front. He's like, he's got to crouch down. He's really just crouching down so that he can fit in the composition here. Because I guess Xavier's like looking at them and talking to him. You got Angel with his gigantic wings in the back. And then the crystal effect just starts to take over. And that's the end of Cable. This was the last issue of Cable as it goes into the Age of Apocalypse. And this is all just kind of blah, blah, blah. The mutant kind and the world is ending. I mean, that's a cool splash page too. And that one's colored pretty neatly, I think. The overexposure on their faces there to really kind of give you an idea of what's happening. Anyway, that's the send-off. So this is, for a Cable book, you think Cable is like big action book, and this one doesn't have a lot of action. It just had a lot of like small character moments with the world, the impending world ending at this moment. Is this issue integral to the Legion quest story? I don't know that it's integral to like the plot of, Legion going back in time and what he was doing, but I do think this is pretty integral as far as like to get some more of that emotion to resonate with you for what's happening. And I mean, this is monthly comics. I think we all figure something's going to go back to status quo in the long run, but you got to have those moments to make it feel like there's actual stakes to it. Otherwise, you're just buying a book just to flip through the art and that be that. So, you need that stuff. Be sure to pick up X-Men 41. That's the end of Legion Quest. And here's kind of the first look at all of the X books that are coming out in the following month, in the January, like the wish list. Let you know, see, Santa Claus and everything. Because these were coming out in December. They have cover dates of January of the next year, or February even at this point, but these were coming out in December of 94. And that's it for Cable. And the series ended, and the next time this book would come out would be X-Man #1. Until next time, read your comics. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed my breakdown of this issue, you can support the channel by hitting subscribe. It costs you nothing and helps other comic fans find the channel. You can also visit readyourcomics.com for cool merch, like this. Read Your Comics isn't just a brand, it's a mantra. And when you wear a Read Your Comics shirt, you are helping spread the word. For more classic comics conversation, be sure to follow me on Instagram at read.your.comics. And if you're still here, why not watch one of my older videos? Here or here.